Hush, darling. Lean close, closer still. Do you hear it? No? Good. Silence is a rare creature, fragile, trembling, exquisite, a whisper that waits for only the most attentive hearts. And tonight, we chase it together. There's a quiet so deep it presses against the soul, like yearning fingers in the dark. A hush so heavy it becomes a presence, soft but demanding, like a truth that refuses to step into light. Listen, not with your ears, darling, with your pulse. Let every thought fall away like dust from ancient velvet. There is power here in this gentle dark, a sweetness in restraint, a thrill in stillness, a seduction in silence. Breathe in, hold the hush, feel the world kneel before it. Come, darling, step into the quiet with me, and let silence have its voice. The mountain pinnacles slumber, valleys, crags, and caves are silent. Listen to me, said the demon, as he placed his hand upon my head. The region of which I speak is a dreary region in Libya, by the borders of the river Zaire, and there is no quiet there, nor silence. The waters of the river have a saffron and sickly hue, and they flow not onward to the sea, but palpitate forever and forever beneath the red eye of the sun, with a tumultuous and convulsive motion. For many miles, on either side of the river's oozy bed, is a pale desert of gigantic water lilies. They sigh one unto another in that solitude, and stretch up toward the heaven their long and glassy necks, and nod to and fro their everlasting heads. And there is an indistinct murmur which cometh out from among them like rushing of subterraneous water, and they sigh one into the other. But there is a boundary to their realms, the boundary of the dark, horrible, lofty forest. There, like the waves about the Hebrides, the low underwood is agitated continually, but there is no wind throughout the heaven, and the tall primeval trees rock eternally hither and thither with a crashing and mighty sound, and from their high summits, one by one, drop everlasting dews, and at the roots strange poisonous flowers lie writhing in perturbed slumber, and overhead, with a rustling and loud noise, the gray clouds rush westwardly forever until they roll a cataract over the fiery wall of the horizon, and there is no wind throughout the heaven, and by the shores of the river Zaire there is neither quiet nor silence. It was night, and the rain fell, and falling, it was rain, but having fallen, it was blood. And I stood in the morass among the tall, and the rain fell upon my head, and the lilies sighed one unto the other in the solemnity of their desolation. And all at once the moon arose through the thin and ghastly mist, and was crimson in color, and mine eyes fell among a huge gray rock, which stood by the shore of the river, and was lighted by the light of the moon. And the rock was gray. Upon its front were characters engraven in the stone. And I walked through the morass of water lilies until I came upon the shore, that I might read the characters upon the stone. But I could not decipher them, and I was going back into the morass when the moon shone with a fuller red, and I turned and looked again upon the rock and upon the characters, and the characters were desolation. And I looked upward, And there stood a man upon the summit of the rock, and I hid myself among the water lilies, that I might discover the actions of the man. And the man was tall and stately in form, and was wrapped up from his shoulders to his feet in the toga of old Rome, and the outlines of his figure were indistinct, but his features were the features of a deity, for the mantle of the night, and of mist, and of the moon, and of the dew, had left uncovered the features of his face, and his brow was lofty with thought, and his eyes wild with care, and in a few furrows upon his cheek I read the fables of sorrow, and weariness, and disgust with mankind, and a longing after solitude. And the man sat upon the rock, and leaned his head upon his hand, and looked upon the desolation. He looked down into the low eunuchate shrubbery, and up into the tall primeval trees, and up higher at the rustling heaven, and into the crimson moon, and lay close within shelter of the lilies, and observed the actions of the man. And the man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. And the man turned his attention from the heaven, and looked out upon the dreary river Zaire, and upon the yellow ghastly waters, and upon the pale legions of the water lilies. And the man listened to the sighs of the water lilies, and to the murmur that came upon from among them. And I lay close within my covert, and observed the actions of the man. And the man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. Then I sat down into the recesses of the morass, and waited afar in among the wilderness and the lilies, and called upon the hippopotami, which dwelt among the fens and the recesses of the morass. And the hippopotami heard my call, and came with the behemoth into the foot of the rock, and roared loudly and fearfully beneath the moon. And I lay close within my covert, and observed the actions of the man. And the man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. Then I grew angry, and cursed with the curse of silence the river, and the lilies, and the wind, and the forest, and the heavens, and the thunder, and the sighs of the water lilies. And they became accursed, and were still, and the moon ceased to totter up its pathway to heaven, and the thunder died away, and the lightning did not flash, and the clouds hung motionless, and the waters sunk to their level and remained, and the trees ceased to rock, and the water lilies sighed no more. And the murmur was heard no longer from among them, nor any shadow of sound throughout the vast, immeasurable desert. And I looked upon the characters of the rock, and they were changed, and the characters were silenced. And mine eyes fell upon the countenance of the man, and his countenance was wan and terror. And hurriedly he raised his head and his hand, and stood forth upon the rock, and listened. But there was no voice throughout the vast, illimitable desert, and the characters upon the rock were silence. And the man shuddered, and turned his face away, and fled far off in haste, so that I beheld him no more. There now, darling. Do you feel a quiet settling on your skin, soft as a promise, warm as a secret pressed on your throat? We have walked hand in hush, heart in shadow, breath held between worlds. And now the silence releases us, reluctant, like a lover who lingers at the door just one moment longer. And don't forget, true silence is never empty. It listens, it hungers, it waits. And somewhere, just beyond the dark, it waits for you again, darling. Rest now. Let your breath return, slow, sweet, steady. And when the shadows beckon and the hush curls its fingers toward you, come back. I'll be here, in the quiet, between heartbeats, waiting to whisper to you again. Good night, darling. And remember, sometimes the loudest truths are the ones that never make a sound.